Trial shows that Gardasil, a vaccine for the human papillomavirus, is just as effective in protecting men as it is in protecting women. The H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa tested the vaccine on 4,000 boys and men. They found Gardasil was 90% effective. That's the same success rate they saw in girls and women. HPV is the leading cause of cervical cancer in women and linked to some cancers in men. The study was funded by Merck, the manufacturer of Gardasil. A new study from the University of Texas shows more people are trying out complementary and alternative forms of medicine. Around 2 decades ago, 1/3 of Americans used alternative medicine, and now that number has nearly doubled. We're talking about things like yoga, massage, herbal medicine, and meditation. Researchers say the rising cost of health care has contributed to the increase. Dr. Allan Magaziner from the Magaziner Center for Wellness is here to talk more about this. Now, you're all about this. This is a great idea.
This is right up my alley. We've seen a great increase in patients wanting to come in for alternative and complementary medicine now. I've been doing this for 25 years. What we've seen is that patients are not happy with their conventional medical care sometimes. First of all, there's unmet needs. Secondly, we tend to spend a lot more time with people. We're not rushing them. Thirdly, we're looking at the root cause of disease, not just covering up symptoms. So we're really getting at the cause of what's triggering, and we're looking at the whole person. I think people really appreciate that. We're not just putting them on medications haphazardly. Let me give you an example. So many people are on statin drugs today, and there's a lot of questions as to do they really help those individuals who have high levels but yet maybe no risk factors. But meanwhile, everybody's put on these medicines. There's a lot of alternatives to statin drugs that we can use that don't have the same side effects. So many people are experiencing fatigue from these things, and muscle aches and pains, and depression, and neurologic problems, but yet there are alternatives, and that's why people are seeking out physicians who are practicing this.
I found it interesting that the study pointed out that it's whites that are seeking out alternative care more than any other group, that other ethnic groups are not doing it. I wonder why that is.
Well, Asians and whites were about equivalent, and almost twice the number of Hispanics and African Americans. I don't know if it's the awareness factor, possibly that's part of it. Maybe they're more open-minded towards these things, and maybe some economic factors as well. But it's interesting, too, when we look at alternative medicine, they looked at acupuncture and massage. These things, acupuncture in particular, has been around for 5,000 years, and we're calling that alternative medicine? Maybe what we're really doing in medicine today, meaning the antibiotics and the Lipitor and all the drugs we're using, maybe that's really alternative medicine.
I love, going for the massages and going to the chiropractor and yoga. It helps me, and it's something for people to look into out there. I want to talk about another study out of the University College of London finding that there are 5 new genes associated with Parkinson, and that is a degenerative disorder that affects 500,000 Americans. Let's explain what Parkinson's is a little bit and why this is an important discovery.
Parkinson's is a degeneration in the brain, primarily with a lack of dopamine production. And what happens is people, usually over the age of 50, but we all know Michael J. Fox started to develop symptoms in his 30s. But anyhow, what happens is they develop rigidity of the limbs, there's movement disturbances, gait disturbances, tremors, and we don't have a great cure for this. There are some medications available now, but what we're seeing is that there's a good chance now that genetics may play an important role, but perhaps it's the impact of the environment and maybe even chemicals from our environment that is triggering mutations in these particular genes.
I see. So because for a long time we focused on the environment. So now this new discovery of these 5 new genes, is that possibly going to lead to
new treatments perhaps? Exactly. There's a total of at least 11 now genetic factors or genes that have been identified. There's probably going to be a lot more as we go on with science and look at this further. The area of genetics now is becoming massive in medicine today. But what we're seeing primarily is it's the impact of some of the chemicals, whether it be pesticides, herbicides, PVCs. There's over 70,000 chemicals used in our environment today. We don't know what most of these even do to us. So we're going to find out, hopefully, as time goes on, what impact it may have, and then we can develop new treatment modalities as a result of these genetic factors.
Well, it's studies like this that give us hope, and this was done on thousands and thousands of people, and we see studies all the time, and sometimes we're not, quite sure what to believe, but, they give us hope, and there's been more funded research for scientists in these areas.
Yeah. Neurologic diseases are running rampant today. You mentioned Parkinson's, we know Alzheimer's. It's one of the most costly diseases because they occur at a fairly young age, and they go on for years and years thereafter. And we have very little success in truly curing these diseases, and we just usually control the symptoms. So that's why we're spending so much money and effort now looking at these chronic neurologic illnesses.
All right, Dr. Allan Magaziner, thank you so much for being there and sharing all that information.